What does it take to truly forgive? Welcome to the very first episode of Healing with August Wilde. If this is your first time here, listening to any of my content, I appreciate you for pressing play. I am your host, August Wilde. I'm a hip hop artist from California, but more importantly, I'm a human being and one that's made a lot of mistakes. I've hit rock bottom and I've hurt people I cared about while trying to figure out who I was. I created this platform in order to inspire conversations. So, with that being said, let's go into episode 1 of Healing with August Wilde. The biggest thing that ever hurt me in every situation I've been through, whether I talk about it now, later in the show, or on my music, it wasn't betrayal, it wasn't disrespect, it was not being heard. I've never needed to be right. I just wanted to be understood, or at least someone to try understanding me. And when that understanding never came, it left me with a heart full of hatred and a head full of questions. That's why this episode isn't about one specific story. It's about my general relationship with forgiveness. The one I've built over the years of silence, confusion, and pain. People always call me a nice guy because of how much I do for others. And honestly, they weren't wrong. I forgave quickly. And in my opinion, in hindsight, too quickly. And that's my fault. The person I am today, I look for consistency and accountability. This segment is where artificial intelligence is going to ask me a series of questions, typically 5, based on the topic of the show. So I'm here to just answer the questions truthfully and see what artificial intelligence has for me. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay, so we're talking about forgiveness. And you said earlier, the thing that's always hurt you the most was not being heard. That hit me. So let me ask you this. Question 1. Do you remember the first time you forgave someone and later realized they didn't actually hear you? They just wanted to be off the hook. What did that moment teach you about people and about yourself?
One of the first memories of forgiveness that probably did the most damage to me would be the time I got bullied by my godbrother and his best friend when I was in Catholic school in 2nd grade. When the bullying first started, I didn't know what bullying was, and I can remember bits and pieces, but the first moments they said something, the first moment they bullied me or like said something rude to me, it was about my clothes, right? They said something to the effect of, "You wear poor people clothes." And they said it in front of a teacher, or I mean, I think it was a teacher, it was an adult at least. And they said, "Hey, you can't say that. Say sorry." And so they apologized and I said, "It's okay. No big deal to me." But the bullying didn't stop, and it didn't stop for a whole school year until I physically confronted them. And I'm talking, we got to an altercation on the school grounds during lunch. And I think it went on because I never put my foot down, and I never put my foot down because I wanted so badly to be accepted by my godbrother that I felt like if I were to say something mean back to him, if I were to treat him how he treated me, then he wouldn't accept me. And you might wonder, well, why did I care about acceptance? Again, in my documentary series, I talk about I was an only child and I really wanted a sibling my own age. And at the time I didn't have one. So when I heard that I had a godbrother, I said, wow, I can't wait to be friends with this person. I can't wait to have a sibling. And that's just not how that went down.
Makes a lot of sense. You weren't just being bullied. You were being trained to stay silent in exchange for belonging. And when you forgave them, it wasn't really about peace. It was about survival, about staying close to someone you were afraid to lose, even if they were hurting you. That leads me to my next question.
It's honest.
Question 2. How often do you think your forgiveness has been a negotiation with your own self-worth? Like, if I forgive this, maybe they'll love me. Maybe I'll matter to them again.
Wow. That's a deep question. I would say that was probably the case until 2023. I mean, for most of my life, I was projecting my feelings from when I was a lonely kid onto other people. I felt like if I said something that I knew was going to be effective or hurt their feelings, then I was going to just hurt my younger self. So I would forgive people because deep down, that's what I wish people did for me. Now you might be asking yourself, why would people forgive you if you're claiming to be the victim? And I don't like using that word, but my honest answer is I believe wholeheartedly that bullies target people that remind them of whoever hurt them to begin with. So they were getting revenge through me. So I felt like if I said sorry, then they would realize I'm not that person and they would accept me or move on and we could be friends. But obviously that's not what happened.
So, what you're saying is you forgave people not just to be accepted, but because you didn't want to become what hurt you. That's deep. You
Mhm.
forgave like it was a moral code. But that also sounds exhausting, like carrying someone else's healing on your back. Let me ask you this. Question 3. When you think about the version of you that gave those silent, unconditional apologies, do you feel proud of him, or do you feel like he betrayed you?
I think when it comes to forgiveness, I'm proud of my younger self, but I think he took it a step further and tried to be accepted by the same people he was looking to forgive. I'm proud of the fact that the younger me and even who I am today, like I try to look for the best in people. Um, there are people out there who only view the world as this negative place and they walk around with their guard up. And that just sounds like a horrible way to live. So no, I don't feel like the younger me betrayed myself.
You've said you still choose to see the best in people, and that some people walk around with their guard up expecting the worst. But let me ask you, do you think your ability to forgive people so quickly has ever stopped you from protecting yourself?
Mm.
Like, has it ever made you ignore the red flags just to keep believing the world isn't as bad as it felt when you were younger?
Absolutely. I think the worst part was I ignored blatantly obvious signs in almost everybody because again, I don't walk around thinking somebody is going to use me or take advantage of me. That's just not the first thing my brain goes to. Um, but that naive way of thinking came from thinking that whoever I'm talking about is going to like me or accept me because they know I'm a good person. Almost like from their perspective, they say something like, "Man, look at all these things that Marco ignores about me, and look at all these things that he'll even do for me. Like he's a good person. Like I want this person in my life forever." Um, and I still do a very moderate version of that to this day, where I believe certain people are selfless because they disguise themselves as such, but their actions will show that they only care about themselves. You know, the best example I can give that is like if someone is constantly talking trash, if you're with somebody who starts talking trash about other people, then when you're not around, they're most likely talking trash about you.
Okay, you've forgiven people who never said sorry. You've ignored signs because you wanted to believe in them. You've even confused forgiveness with approval. So here's the final question. Question 5. What does forgiveness look like now when you're no longer trying to be accepted by the people who hurt you? How do you define it for yourself today?
True forgiveness to me looks like water under the bridge. So clean forgiveness, clean slate. I mean, I'm an artist, so I'm going to talk about things that have hurt me at one point in this life, in my music at least, especially because that's my process of letting go of the memories. But in real life, if someone says, I want to apologize for something and I say, I forgive you, then to me, I have to move like it's water under the bridge. And the best example I can give of that is the relationship between my father and I. Anybody who listened to my documentary, Becoming August, Killing the Narcissist, might think that I have this dislike for my father. But that piece of art of that documentary was painting the picture as I was going through these events. Whereas healing with August Wild, this podcast is about where I currently stand on anything that's happened in my life. My father and I didn't talk for 4 years. Not just my father and I, that entire side of the family, my side of the family. And when I finally found the strength to approach him, the conversation essentially went like this. We don't have to agree, or we don't have to. We just don't agree on anything from the past. So let's just forget about it and let's start a brand new relationship. We both agreed. And from that point on, we've had the greatest relationship that we've ever had. But that means on my end, I don't hold him to anything I ever viewed negatively. And as a matter of fact, I approach those things with empathy. And I understand a lot of the decisions he made at that time in his life was because he didn't have anybody to teach him otherwise. My father's a good man. And I wouldn't be who I am today without him. But unfortunately, I did not carry myself that way throughout most of life. And that is why I called the series Becoming August, Killing the Narcissist, because I could only see things from my own perspective. And that was wrong of me. Now that we have the interview out of the way, what I want to do next in this second segment is have a reflection, what I like to call a palm reading, an energy check. The artificial intelligence will take the answers that I just gave and reflect back to me the kind of person that I am.
August. Here's what I hear underneath all of it. You didn't just learn to forgive early. You learned to offer peace as a down payment for love. And even as a kid, you were doing emotional calculus that no child should ever have to do. If I let this go, maybe they'll stay. If I'm kind, maybe they'll choose me. If I hurt back, I'll lose them completely. That's not forgiveness. That's emotional survival. I don't think your younger self betrayed you. I think he protected you the only way he knew how, with silence, softness, and second chances. You're proud of him, and you should be. But I also hear that you've outgrown the version of you who believed forgiveness was enough to fix a broken bond. Because now you know better. You know that forgiveness without accountability is just performance. You know that kindness without boundaries is just people-pleasing. And I think, more than anything, you know that empathy doesn't mean self-abandonment. You still choose to see the best in people, but now you're finally learning to include yourself in that grace. That's not just growth, that's transformation.
I think the thing that hit me the most out of what that just said was kindness without boundaries is people pleasing. And that's 100% accurate. That's 100% accurate. How many people, if you're listening to this right now and you struggle with people pleasing, I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you deal with that. I would love to see a comment. I would love to, if you guys want to DM me to talk about it, a situation you've been in where people just are crossing boundaries. But one of the things that I want to say about the boundary part is, do people know that boundary about you? I give this example a lot in the classes that I teach for work. I say, I say, show of hands, who doesn't allow shoes in their house? And almost everybody raises their hand. I say, okay, do you ask somebody at the door or by the time they've already made it to the couch? And most people can't give me an answer, but some people will say, well, at the door, of course. And I say, that's what boundaries are. Boundaries need to be upfront right away. I'm not saying that you need to be aggressive about it. I'm not saying you need to be rude about it. But one of the things that I failed to do throughout my life was set those boundaries because I felt like, just like this said, people pleasing. I felt like if I set boundaries, then I would not be accepted by the people that I loved. I'm not talking about strangers. I'm talking about people that I love, I cared about. And I think that if I could take anything away from this, is kindness without boundaries is just people pleasing. That is amazing. We're about to move into the third section of the show, public perception and accountability assessment. In this segment, the artificial intelligence is going to give me 3 points of pushback that the public might give. And I'm going to respond to those things. And then artificial intelligence will deliver an accountability assessment based on my answers.
Some people might hear your story and say, if you really forgave them, you wouldn't still be talking about it. You'd move on already.
I think we have this perception that moving on means forgetting. And in my opinion, I think that means you're lost. I'm an analogy person. So if you're trying to go from Northern California to Southern California, you're constantly moving if you're driving, right? But if you're driving without navigation, how do you know you're making progress towards the place you're trying to get to? You have to remember landmarks. Or you look at a sign on the side of the road and say, hey, we've been here before. Or maybe you've been to LA from Northern California one time, and you say something to the effect of, I know we're halfway when we pass this landmark or this sign or this gas station. Moving on, to me, means you don't move with the intention of the person you were when something hurt you. It means you let go of that hate that you associate with that event or with that pain. I'm the kind of person who talks about things, even if those things make us uncomfortable. And if I can't talk to you directly, and trust me, I'll talk to anybody directly, then I have to talk to either a podcast or an instrumental.
But isn't talking about your pain this much just a form of playing the victim?
I don't think it's me playing the victim, but let's say you can't be convinced otherwise. Victims make victim statements, right? Right? I don't consider myself a victim at all. But if you're calling me a victim or you think that I want to play victim, here's my victim statement. Point blank, period. How can we describe any event without everybody's point of view? It's impossible. And in therapy, you have to be honest about what happened. In this episode, I'm talking about a very general concept, but if I were to give specifics about a story or talk about a specific story, I would include the other person's perspective. At that point, that's not a victim mindset. That's just telling a story. If you want to think I'm a victim, I'm not going to try to change your mind. But this show is called Healing with August Wilde for a reason. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to learn. And the only way for me to do that is to talk things out. If people won't respond to my phone calls, respond to my text messages, won't say hi to me in person, or go out of their way to avoid me, this is where I have to do it. You might ask yourself, why record it and put it out for public consumption? And I think that is more of a fair point, but I'll address that too. To me, all of this content is about driving dialogue in a way that forces society to rethink some of their preconceived notions. When I'm in a group of people, I notice people will say things that society would approve of, no matter what you ask them. You can ask them about politics, about family stuff, and they're going to say what they think other people would like to hear for the most part. But when I talk to those same people one-on-one, by themselves, they get very vulnerable. And they'll say something to the effect of, oh, I could never tell people what I just told you. Or they'll say something like, man, I wish I could just be honest like you are. So that tells me that I was not the only person in life that was living a lie, specifically about the way they feel about things. For a long time, I tried to appease other people by not being myself. And that led me down a dark, depressing road that almost made me take my own life. How many people have taken their lives successfully because they feel like it's pointless to talk to anybody? How many? If I'm able to make it socially acceptable for people to have hard conversations, but conversations that are based in the truth, then I have successfully created an environment where people can feel safe to be themselves. And that's why I do this.
Some people might say you're just too sensitive. that you take things too personally?
I get that one a lot. That one I get a lot. So this is what I'm going to say to that. Anyone who calls me sensitive, I hope you listen to this very closely. If you're calling me sensitive, I'm going to say this. You're right. Then I'm going to follow that up with respond to what I just said. You see, people like to say that I'm sensitive as a way of dismissing the point that I just brought up, no matter what the point is. If I say to somebody, I feel like people don't invite me to parties because I'm obnoxious, and they respond with, you're overthinking it and you're being sensitive. Not only is that dismissing what I just said, but that's not even a response to what I just said. Like, let's think about that example for a second. If I was truly not invited and I continue to not be invited to the same places you're invited to, and we both know those people equally, there has to be a reason. And I'm not saying I'm hurt by the reason, but I don't know why I'm considered sensitive for wanting to understand it. Because to me, understanding it means that I can grow and that I can learn. I'm not saying that because I want to be upset or because I'm trying to be right or I'm trying to correct somebody. I'm saying that because no one is giving me feedback, I am now forced to come up with my own conclusion. But you writing me off as sensitive just shows that you are also afraid of honest dialogue. And that could be a bold assumption on my part, but that's just the way I see it. Now I am ready for you to give me the accountability assessment.
August, your strength has always been your heart, your ability to empathize, to forgive, and to see the best in people, even when they've shown you the worst. But in your journey to be good, you sometimes gave too much of yourself away, expecting that your forgiveness would earn you love or clarity in return. You've carried emotional weight in silence, not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to hold what others dropped. Still, healing now asks you to stop proving your worth through endurance. It asks you to protect that same heart you've offered to everyone else, and to recognize that your value isn't in how much you can take. It's in how deeply you feel, how honestly you speak, and how bravely you grow.
I love that. I specifically about protecting your heart, protecting yourself, the boundary setting. That is the most important part to me about just making sure that people don't ever cross a line that you haven't communicated yet. I didn't communicate the things. Not only did I not communicate things that bothered me, I outright pretended like they didn't. And that's no one else's fault but my own. So I can't be surprised when people react to who I am honestly. Right? If I've known someone, if I pretended for so long like I was okay with people laughing at my own expense when I was being a drunk idiot, and then I get sober and it come to find out I never liked that stuff, then I'm no better than what I claimed other people were to me. And I could see how someone would take that offensively. So I need to be sure that I protect myself by setting up boundaries early, right? Not keeping my guard up, just setting boundaries, being respectful, respecting people the same way I want to be respected. So I appreciate that accountability assessment. I would say that's accurate. Now I want to move into the fourth segment where we answer the question through tips. I call this one the healing. I have 9 points for you that answers the question, what does it take to truly forgive? So I want to start with the first one. Accept reality. Don't deny pain. You can't forgive what you refuse to name. Acknowledge what happened. Say it out loud. Don't minimize it just because you want to be strong. Point number 2, letting go of the apology you may never get. Forgiveness starts when you stop waiting for someone else to make it right. It doesn't mean they were right. It just means that you're done waiting. Go ahead and forgive. Don't wait on somebody else. Point number 3, separating forgiveness from reconnection. You can forgive someone and not have a relationship with them again. Forgiveness is internal. Rebuilding trust, that's optional. Point number 4. Release the version of yourself that was hurt. True forgiveness means letting go of the identity that was born from the pain, whether it's the victim, the protector, or the over-explainer. Let it go. Point number 5. Recognizing that empathy is not endurance. Being able to understand why someone hurt you doesn't mean you have to keep enduring it. You could be empathetic and walk away. Point number 6. Creating boundaries that protect your healing. Forgiveness without boundaries is just self-abandonment. Protecting your peace is not revenge, it's maturity. Point number 7. Choosing peace over closure. Some stories don't get clean endings. Forgiveness is saying, I can live without the full explanation. Point number 8. Allowing yourself to still feel. Just because you've forgiven doesn't mean it won't sting sometimes. That's normal. Feel that pain. Feel it. Because feeling it again doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're still human. Finally, point number 9. Understanding that forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. It's your way of saying, I won't carry this weight anymore. Not because they deserve freedom, but because I deserve freedom. And that is how you truly forgive. That's what it takes to truly forgive. For the final segment of this show, I want to close out with a mantra and then a challenge. Forgiveness is not a weakness. It's a boundary made of grace. I am not defined by what was done to me. I am defined by how I choose to heal. I release the weight, but I keep the wisdom. I let go, not to forget, but to finally be free. Thank you for walking this part of the path with me. Take a breath and keep going. To anybody watching who thinks we have a problem, we do not. I forgive you. All of you. The ones I talk about, the ones I won't talk about. You might hear me make comments here and there, but it's just little echoes of pain. It's not bitterness. That's just me working through this healing. For this week's challenge, I'm going to call the challenge, Call the Ghost. What I want you to do is I want you to think of someone you've been holding something against, but never fully told them. I'm not talking about someone who traumatized you in any form. That's not what this is for. But someone where the silence has been eating at you. Maybe a former friend, a parent, an ex. Here's the challenge I have for you. I want you to reach out to them. Send them a text, a DM, as long as it's safe. I don't want you to get an apology. I'm not trying to make you go back to how things were. What I want you to do is be able to say, I've held on to something I never told you, and I just need to speak to it so I can stop carrying it. If they don't respond, that's fine. If you don't feel safe talking to them, write it in a voice note to yourself. The point isn't what they do with it. The point is to free yourself by speaking the truth you've held on to for so long. The ghost only haunts you if you keep pretending it's not real. Thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of Healing with August Wilde. I hope to see you next week.